This is the Paradise Unicorn Priestess, bringing you day 309 of A Course in Miracles, the Yin translation where we use female words. This would be November 5th if you're starting at the new year. Forgiveness, the face of Christ. Forgiveness is for God and toward God, but not of her. It is impossible to think of anything she created that could need forgiveness. Forgiveness, then, is an illusion. But because of its purpose, which is the Holy Spirit's, it has one difference. Unlike all other illusions, it leads away from error and not toward it. Forgiveness might be called a kind of happy fiction, a way in which the unknowing can bridge the gap between their perception and the truth. They cannot go directly from perception to knowledge because they do not think it is their will to do so. This makes God appear to be an enemy instead of what she really is. And it is just this insane perception that makes them unwilling merely to rise up and to return to her in peace. And so they need an illusion of help because they are helpless, a thought of peace because they are in conflict. God knows what her child needs before she asks. She is not at all concerned with form, but having given the content, it is her will that it be understood, and that suffices. The form adapts itself to need. The content is unchanging, as eternal as its creator. The face of Christ has to be seen before the memory of God can return. The reason is obvious. Seeing the face of Christ involves perception. No one can look on knowledge, but the face of Christ is the great symbol of forgiveness. It is salvation. It is the symbol of the real world. Whoever looks on this no longer sees the world. She is as near to heaven as is possible outside the gate. Yet from this gate, it is no more than just a step inside. It is the final step, and this we leave to God. Forgiveness is a symbol too, but as the symbol of her will alone, it cannot be divided, and so the unity that it reflects becomes her will. It is the only thing still in the world in part, and yet the bridge to heaven. God's will is all there is. We can but go from nothingness to everything, from hell to heaven. Is this a journey? No, not in truth, for truth goes nowhere, but illusions shift from place to place, from time to time. The final step is also but a shift. As a perception, it is part unreal, and yet this part will vanish. What remains is peace eternal and the will of God. There are no wishes now, for wishes change. Even the wished for can become unwelcome. That must be so because the ego cannot be at peace. But will is constant, as the gift of God, and what she gives is always like herself. This is the purpose of the face of Christ. It is the gift of God to save her child. But look on this, and you have been forgiven. How lovely does the world become in just that single instant when you see the truth about yourself reflected there. Now you are sinless, and behold your sinlessness. Now you are holy and perceive it so, and now the mind returns to its creator, the joining of the mother and the child, the unity of unities that stands behind all joining but beyond them all. God is not seen, but only understood. Her child is not attacked, but recognized. Today's passage speaks about two forms of healing symbols, of beautiful, divine, heavenly symbols that are illusions that are extremely helpful and necessary in our waking to our being at home in God. We have forgiveness, and we have the face of Christ. Forgiveness is described as a happy fiction, as we are reminded that nothing God created could possibly ever need forgiveness. This passage explains that we cannot go directly from perception to knowledge because we do not think it is our will, and that makes God appear to be an enemy. That is what perpetuates the belief in a gap between us and God, our own fear of what God seems to be to us. We are not ready to give up perception, and the answer, the miracle, is the Holy Spirit's translating of our perception into one so near to heaven that we wake to our realization that we don't need perception or form any longer, that all we want is the content, not the form. The content is love. In chapter 4 of the text, we are told that the meek shall inherit the earth because their egos are humble, and therefore their perception is more true. It is closer to heaven. Those are the ones who have received the miracles. And we are told that in the purpose of being practical, the Course exists firmly in the domain of the ego. In essence, the Course is talking to our ego, training our ego to be humble. This is the healing process, our egos becoming convinced of the logic of love and relinquishing themselves willingly, giving themselves over to be repurposed. This is the training and the humbling of the ego. This is the vigilance that we are being asked to take on. Early on in the Course, the narrator tells us that they themselves do not have an ego, and that is why we can trust them to be a teacher to us. In order to become what some call ascended masters, what the Course calls teachers of teachers, teacher with a capital T, such a one would have attained that state where they no longer have an ego. It's already been explained to us that form means nothing to God, only content, and content is love, and that having given that content, God would very much like us to understand it. Well, right now, in our current insane mindset that is in need of healing, form is what we understand. That is why it is so useful for those in bodies to be sent to others who are also seemingly in bodies to invite them to the waking. It is form that is needed to reach us at this time. Form that is full of the content of love. And that is what the symbol of forgiveness and the symbol of the face of Christ is. We are told in the Course that the sister that we have forgiven becomes the most beautiful thing we have ever beheld, beyond what we can currently understand. So beautiful we would be tempted to bow down and worship. We have all these romantic ideas about falling in love and finding the perfect partner. It would seem that those stories and songs and fables pale in comparison with the in-love experience of beholding our sister that we have forgiven. To me, this implies that when we see our sister as annoying or incompetent or in any way undesirable, we did that to her by our judgment. We created that image out of our attack. When we forgive our sister, those layers of illusions fall away until nothing but the child of God remains, and that is the face of Christ. The Course tells us that the original mistake and separation, according to our illusion, is ancient. Ancient, ancient, ancient. Every time our ego has decided that we've made enough of a mess of things, that iteration of our experience gets scrapped in the form of death and restarted again in what we think of as rebirth, where there's a complete forgetting. We seem to be a clean slate. But the judgments and attacks of the past are still echoing and resounding throughout the illusion and the collective experience. So when we seem to be born into the illusion again as a clean slate, it's not a clean slate at all. It's full of the past, which, granted, is an illusion, but that is the thing to be forgiven. So when we see ugliness around us in all forms, we have to take this into account. We bear responsibility for what we see, because in the illusion, even if we've forgotten it, we've given ourselves amnesia, we caused it. It's our dream. We bonked ourselves over the head, gave ourselves amnesia so we could have a new dream when the other one became unbearable in some way. We just come back to the same echoes of the things we have not yet forgiven. Because we think the dream is real, we wander around in the ugliness trying to fix it, and we're trying to fix it by judging it, which only perpetuates ugliness. Today's passage says, "And so they need an illusion of help because they are helpless, a thought of peace because they are in conflict. God knows what her child needs before she asks." We are reminded that illusions shift from place to place from time to time, and that wishes change. It says even the wished for can become unwelcome because the ego cannot be at peace. That is why the Course seeks to teach and train our ego of this, so that, wanting peace, the ego will relinquish itself, knowing that there is no destruction in God, only repurposing, only translation, only transformation, and the unpleasant and painful forms will be translated into happy ones, with the requirement that they be happy for absolutely all. How lovely does the world become in just that single instant when you see the truth about yourself reflected there. That is the moment that we perceive our own sinlessness and our own holiness, that God's child is not attacked but recognized. We see the face of Christ when we have not yet realized we are the face of Christ. And then when we become it, we do not see it anymore, for we are it. After we review What is the Second Coming, found in show notes, we go on to Lesson 309. I will not fear to look within today. Within me is eternal innocence, because it is God's will that it be there forever and forever. I, her child, whose will is limitless as is her own, can will no change in this. For to deny my mother's will is to deny my own. To look within is but to find my will as God created it and as it is. I fear to look within because I think I made another will that is not true and made it real. Yet it has no effects. Within me is the holiness of God. Within me is the memory of her. The step I take today, my mother, is my sure release from idle dreams of sin. Your altar stands serene and undefiled. It is the holy altar to myself, and there I find my true identity. That is our lesson for the day. Happy practicing.